Hey folks, fact, theory or mystery in the Legend of Zelda series? We love it around here, which is exactly why I've created my very own series, reviewing your theories and mysteries. An opportunity to move away from going over my own thoughts and putting you lovely folks in the spotlight, discussing any and all theories and or mysteries that you submit. Welcome back. I'm sure you may have noticed that I've changed the name of the series slightly from rating to reviewing your theories and mysteries, and that will be explained in a video going up tomorrow. And just a quick note guys, I am still figuring out how I want this series to work. Give me some time, give me some patience, and we'll get there after a few more episodes. It's an active work in progress. And by that, I'm talking about how long I'm going to talk about each theory and mystery and so on. I'll get there, don't worry. But for now, get yourself comfy because we have some very juicy submissions to explore. I'm talking about what happened to a certain group in the Zelda series, a big statement regarding Demise's curse, lost aliens in Breath of the Wild, and more. Let's waste no more time and get into this. Be sure to go and grab yourself a snack or drink and send them in to get featured right here. Be sure to drop a like and subscribe if you haven't already, it really helps the channel out, and let's get into this one. First, from user Kate Joy, Telma from Twilight Princess is a descendant of the Gerudo. Now this is something that I've discussed here and there over the years, just in little pieces. You know, with Twilight Princess being my all-time favourite game and all. I don't think I've ever mentioned that. Anyway, in that game, the famous Gerudo people are not present at all. All but the King of Thieves Ganondorf. His people are gone. The Gerudo Desert is a barren wasteland of cracked canyons, bubbling camps, and certainly not much trace of the Gerudo. This is especially odd considering that this game takes place around 100 years following the events of Ocarina of Time. This time frame was in fact confirmed by one of the developers. I've linked the source for that below. To add to this, in the game we see a cutscene showing us Ganondorf's attempted execution. We're told that this takes place only several years after the events of Ocarina of Time. In that scene, Ganondorf, the leader of the Gerudo, has a failed execution, which results in him being sent to the Twilight Realm. Keep in mind that this is only several years following Ocarina of Time, the game in which the Gerudo appeared to be pretty established. I mean, obviously following the events of Ocarina of Time, their leader is caught out thanks to the time-travelling hero. Oh wait, that could be significant. And I promise this all does link to Telma and Twilight Princess. Okay, so after Ocarina of Time, Link is sent back in time, and Zelda then catches Ganondorf out. He is prosecuted and, several years later, sentenced to execution. Presumably during the several years prior to his execution, the Gerudo were still present, but upon learning the fate of their leader, whether that's him being caught out and pledging false allegiance, or the execution itself, it's not too far-fetched to suggest that following this big change in the Gerudo hierarchy, that the people left Hyrule for one reason or another. But you know what would make this make sense even more? The Gerudo reappear further down this timeline during the events of Four Swords Adventures in the Desert of Dao, a game after the events of Twilight Princess, and it's somewhere that isn't the Gerudo Desert. They also live a more peaceful life in this game, rather than being a band of thieves. Now to Telma. She is the only character in this game, Twilight Princess, who has Gerudo traits, mainly the red hair and big strong build, both seen in Gerudo women throughout their history. And whilst not an all Gerudo, Telma does have a very strong confident personality, something common in the Gerudo. I would suggest to your theory that Telma could in fact be a relative of one of the many Gerudo who fled following Ocarina of Time and Ganondorf being prosecuted, perhaps a granddaughter. And through obviously unexplained events, she wound up back in Hyrule and opened up her own little bar in Castletown, or perhaps never left somehow. And also, it's a stretch, but maybe she opened it in this particular little hidden away corner of the town because she didn't want her Gerudo hints to be seen too much. But like I said, that is a stretch. Personally, I like this one. I always have, and I'm really glad I've been given the opportunity to explore it more in depth. This is a solid enough theory for the most part, but it does lack evidence in some areas, but also makes up for it with very possible evidence. For me personally, I believe that Telma is in fact of Gerudo blood. Second, from user Cornflakes. Ganondorf wasn't born into Demise's curse as we are led to believe. Rather, he developed so much evil himself that he was selected. Now this is a bold shout, but an amazingly bold one at that. Let's fully inspect your theory and get into it. Okay, so the suggestion here is that rather than being born into the curse put down by Demise all those years ago that would plague the land time and time again with undying evil, Ganondorf wasn't part of this initially. Rather, he developed so much raw hatred to the blood of the goddess, the same that stood with the mighty hero chosen by the gods, the one that Demise was after as well, that this raw hatred developed over time, and through the events of the civil war, the curse saw Ganondorf, the leader of the Gerudo, the man with raw malicious hate towards what the curse stands for, and Ganondorf was selected. Off the bat, this isn't too unlikely. It's not likely, but it's not too unlikely. Get it? The curse itself is something that I don't think we understand the full extent of how it works. Between version differences, translations and whatnot, I am not sure how it works entirely. From what we do know, or are led to believe, this theory could work. So we're going with Ganondorf wasn't born into the curse, but was chosen. Okay, let's look at the villain before Ganondorf, the one you also mentioned. Vaati, the first villain of Hyrule. Vaati wasn't born as a villain, Vaati was a student who lost their way and turned to evil. They saw the power evil could bring and went for it. Personally, I don't think Vaati was born into a curse, rather the curse found its way to Vaati. That evil desire within wasn't there from the very beginning, and perhaps the curse latches on, for lack of a better term. Or maybe the curse works in a sort of inevitable destiny way, as in, from the very beginning, Vaati was always destined to turn out the way he did. I'm not sure, to be honest. I side more with the former, that Vaati turned at some stage, perhaps through the influence of the curse. Moving back to Ganondorf though, maybe the same thing happened with him. Maybe you're right and the curse chose him. There are a lot of variables to this theory in my opinion, so many to consider that it's very difficult to come to a conclusion in a single video. Maybe this is something that we can explore in a full-blown video someday. If so, I'd appreciate you commenting on that and I'll note it down. To try and conclude this pick, I am on board. I just don't know how to answer how this works, therefore I can't really say much more. I'm definitely on board with the idea, I just can't explain it. But I am on board. I've said that enough. I really like this. It's a really good idea, really nice lore dive, and all round pretty damn interesting. It challenges what we know. I like that. Third, from user CarlJohansen. What if the Zonai are aliens? Hold up. Aliens? That is both crazy and genius. I love how you've presented this mystery as well, bringing up the unused concept art of the alien invaders for the first game and suggesting that it could have ties to the fan favourite mystery of the Zonai tribe. I'm sure many of you know, but if not, to put it real brief, the Zonai are a mysterious tribe that vanished from Hyrule long ago. All that's left are their structures, now mostly in ruin, and they were said to be magic wielders. The iceberg with the Zonai goes deep. Many theorists, fans, and just those interested have dug for connections through this tribe throughout the entire Zelda timeline and found connections. It's crazy that we know next to nothing, but yet have so much to discuss at the same time. Okay, so Zonai aliens. I like it. They are described as an ancient civilization, an ancient magic-wielding civilization. If you compare this to some real-world descriptions and theories of ancient life, many believe that in ancient times on Earth, you know, our real world, those that lived here were from space and or ventured into outer space, highly intelligent aliens, far from what we consider to be intelligent. These theories are often associated with civilizations that resemble what's left of the Zonai, the ruins and structures that, to us, appear like nothing more than carvings on rock, but depictions and tales say otherwise. To me, this highly resembles what we are told of the Zonai in Breath of the Wild, and to help support the theory, there is concept art of this out there as well. On top of that, we also have some development footage of what could be more of that concept, but I'm not entirely sure. We do have the artwork for sure. There was an idea to somehow implement aliens into the game. It obviously didn't come to anything, but match this up with the Zonai and you've got a pretty good suggestion on your hands. Compared to a real world view, something the game developers often look to when coming up with new ideas, this could work. I definitely agree with you on this one if I'm being honest, and in the sequel I'd love to learn more about them and maybe this will come true? Who knows. This one intrigues me so much, and it's crazy how interesting this is, but obviously we can't say for sure due to the mysterious nature of the Zonai. But hey, that's part of what makes them so interesting, right? Fourth, from user Dylan Woods. The hole in the Yiga clan hideout leads to a labyrinth of caves that could contain a dungeon. First things first, this is without a doubt a heavily discussed topic among fans. It has been covered and theorized on, and I mean, why not? It's a deep dark hole with no view of the bottom. Of course it's interesting. Now, I want to mention a very well-known video on the topic by a good friend of mine by the name of Bandit Plays. I'll link it below and also recommend checking it out as the conclusions/suggestions he comes up with are quite interesting. Now, to explore your idea, could there be a cave system and further, a dungeon down there? Well, all we know for sure is that there is at the very least, a bit of Sheikah tech down there, as we throw a Sheikah puzzle ball down there to activate one of the Champion's Ballad DLC shrines. But what if there is more? I mean, that's kind of the basis for all ideas regarding this topic. Now, in regards to the sequel, a lot of fans are speculating the return of more traditional Zelda dungeons. It's been highly spoken of by fans, and I wouldn't put it past Nintendo to try and bring them back into the open air style Zelda is now in. The developers have openly said, and at times joked about hearing fans' thoughts and considering it, for example, petting dogs. But at the end of the day, they'll make the game how they feel works best. Regardless, let's talk about this as if dungeons were to return and be a part of the existing Hyrule. I'm not ruling out the option of dungeons elsewhere, but for the sake of this pick, just in Hyrule. The developers would need to get creative with where to place them. Going to Hyrule's mysterious nook and crannies is a great place to explore. Now, we've already seen that the sequel will have an underground to an extent. We don't know an entrance as of yet, other than Hyrule Castle by the looks of things, but that appears to open up after we find Ganondorf down there. Anyway, back on track. Say that there is a cave entrance with the Sheikah tech down here, it's totally possible that it could lead to a dungeon, and that's all I can really say. There isn't much more to suggest. We don't know anything regarding this one. It's a mystery. But you've got a really cool idea here to answer an intriguing mystery. Very well done. Very clever, and it would be incredibly cool if it happened. Before getting into our final pick for the day, here are a couple of honourable mentions that didn't quite make the list, but I still really wanted to include. From user KittyCat, the events of Majora's Mask potentially being a dream Link had during his 7-year slumber during the events of Ocarina of Time. From Spider Guy, what happened to the Deku Scrub race? And from Joe Olivis, well, more so your daughter, Gully from Skyward Sword is Tingle's ancestor. Fifth, from user Sean Rice, there is no Zelda timeline, only legends. If this isn't one heck of a theory, then I don't know what is. I saw this theory a while before beginning the writing for this video, and ever since that moment, I've been looking forward to discussing it. That moment's now. The basis for this is that in every game, each individual story is not told from the perspective of Link, but the storyteller, with exception to Breath of the Wild. However, if we were to look at this from the view of an outsider, a reader, if you like, somebody reading all these individual stories with no knowledge of the timeline and its splits, these stories that take place over hundreds and thousands of years could very easily alter with each passing over the years. Little details going missing, gaps are filled, information is misinterpreted, and so on. Breath of the Wild is said to take place at the end of all timelines, either as an inevitable outcome for all, or the outcome for all. But going by this theory, the reason that Breath of the Wild is viewed this way and has tons of references to all three timelines, I'm talking about the sea salt reference, the Lon Lon Ranch reference, the castle town on the Great Plateau layout mystery, and every single little detail in there. They are all there because those stories, those adventures of the past that took place prior to the events of Breath of the Wild, which, by the way, is a long time past them already, those adventures are, well, stories. They're true, but over time, with each telling, have changed slightly. Many years of small details changing or getting lost, leading us to where we are now. All these past adventures happened, but in reality, didn't pan out in the three splits as we are told on paper. The timeline splits are, in reality, just different ways of the stories being told. Some fact, some mystery, but in the modern day, a lot of myth and legends. They all happened, they're just told in different ways, and that's where the timelines actually come from. That is my view on your submission, and I gotta say, I really like this one. I don't know if I took it exactly how you intended, but this is how I see it, and obviously I'm interested to what everybody else thinks. I gotta say, impressive take, creative idea, and all-round brilliant suggestion for the video. I honestly think that this could be made possible if the developers really wanted to do something like this in the future. Well done to you. Thanks for the submission. Thank you for all of your submissions. The next episode will go live on the 27th of March, and the post to enter submissions for that video will go up shortly after this video is live. If you want to submit a theory or mystery for me to discuss next time, be sure to leave it there. And yes, you can copy and paste from a previous post if yours wasn't selected. I'm always trying to improve this series, so give me time to figure it out, and I'll see you next time. Thanks a ton for watching. I really hope you enjoyed the video, and if you did, be sure to drop a like and consider subscribing for more fabulous Zelda content. If you haven't already, be sure to hop in our Discord server through the link below. Follow me on Twitter and Instagram to keep up to date, and as always, a huge special thank you goes out to all of my supporters across Patreon and YouTube. If you'd like to join them and get yourself a shout out upon joining and your name at the end of every video, then consider supporting. Again, thanks for watching, and until the next time, I've been Gamer.